What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a little different project going on. We have a customer's car coming in. It is a 350Z with a 2JZ swap, and we have to fabricate a few things for him, some intercooler piping, move his radiator, and a few other minor things. When he gets here, we're going to go over it and show you where all he needs done, and maybe he's going to be able to talk and talk a little bit about his car and just introduce you to it. But before we're going to roll into that, don't forget about our giveaway going on. It is a Mishimoto oil filter adapter plate, a shirt from our shop, hat, and a few decals. All you have to do is just subscribe to our channel and you automatically enter to win our giveaway. So as soon as he arrives, we're going to go through his car and show you around. Okay guys, so the customer has dropped off his car, and this is 2006 350Z with a 2JZ. This is a VVTi motor. I just want to run through it real quick and just give you a little rundown on what he's got going on. As on the outside, you see there's some Cosmic gold wheels. I believe these are 18 by 9.5 on the front and 10.5 on the rear. He's got a BC coilovers installed on it, and I believe that is all he's got going on for his suspension. And there's a Tomei titanium exhaust. But for his motor swap, basically we're doing some intercooler piping, and I'll run through this here in a little bit. He's got a Born 66mm turbocharger, CX Racing headers, just like on my car. Big intake plenum with a 90mm throttle body, chase bay, power steering lines, and reservoir. And then right down here he's got Megan Racing radiator, as you can see, and then there's a CX Racing intercooler that we're going to be installing on his car, which is still in this box here. And this is the same type that I have installed on my swap, and this is a 1000 CFM intercooler, which works perfect as far as 500, 600, 700 horsepower goals that you have. The reason the car is here, we need to fabricate the intercooler piping, which is going to be coming out right out of this OEM intake hole. And his intercooler is going to be mounted right up front. We're going to end up opening up his bash bar and mounting his intercooler right off of here. If you watch my videos, this is how I have it mounted on mine. So this is going to be set up as an OEM style, and then we're going to cut into this bash bar and mount his intercooler directly to it. And afterwards we're going to end up fabricating some piping to go to the intercooler from your turbocharger and your intake manifold. But there's one little issue here right now. If you come closer right here, you can see that this radiator overlaps with his throttle body. So in this case, what we're going to have to do is, if you look down to the right side of the vehicle here, there's a little bit of room that's right down here. So what we're going to end up doing is fabricating some brackets on top and bottom to move his radiator as far to the right as possible, so he can have the clearance to put a 3-inch intake pipe on there. The plan is move and fabricate brackets for our radiator, mount our intercooler, and fab up all the piping, and then also weld the dash 16 fittings for his radiator hoses. There's a few odds and ends that we have to do, and we'll take you along we'll point it out as we're doing it. But for now, we're going to get started with locating and moving the radiator, and then locating and fabricating mounts for this intercooler. So let's get to it. Alright guys, we went ahead and disassembled the front end of the car. So what we're going to do is shave these fins down just as much as we can to move this forward. The goal is to have the radiator sitting right on the slip or against the slip once once we modify this. And then we're going to end up fabricating some brackets right off of here to pick up the shroud points and it's no longer going to be your plastic isolators that sit here. We're actually going to make plates that will bolt onto the top, and then they'll pick up your shroud point on the back side of the radiator to mount it. And the bottom would have to be, we'll make some plates that we can still use the OEM isolators. It'll just be a little bit over to the right side. So right now we're gonna start cleaning all this up so the radiator can sink down, and then we'll position it to see where it's gonna sit. And for our radiator side, the customer is no longer running the AC, so he's not gonna have condenser sitting in front of it. So we're gonna end up cutting all these bracketry off on top and bottom, so the radiator will have enough clearance to come forward. So let's go ahead and get that done and move forward from there. Alright guys, so we got some progress going on. We got our radiator temp installed right now. We end up clearing most of this core support, and you can see on the bottom how flush it is now. It sits pretty nice and close to the core support, and you remember we're sitting like 2 inches back, so now it's nice and tight. And also the top of this is almost flush. Once we get the brackets in, it's gonna push this in a little bit. Right now it's just temporarily taped in. And now we also moved the radiator about 1 inch to the right of the car. So now you have this clearance for a charge pipe to go through, and I'll show you that. We're not gonna be hitting the radiator anymore, because before it was sitting right on it. So now we have all this clearance over here to actually rotate the pipe or whatever we need to do once we install it. Yeah. Next thing we're gonna do is start mocking up our intercooler. So now this bash bar is really gonna become a big bracket for this intercooler. We're gonna end up basically cutting this off and picking up the points on the intercooler and then mounting flush with the front side of it. So we already have it marked, the center and the sides where we need to cut this. So now we're just gonna remove it and take some of this material out so we can go ahead and bolt our intercooler to the bash bar. What's going on guys? Today is a new day. We had to cut the video short yesterday, but we are currently moving forward with our radiator and our intercooler mounting. And let me show you what we got so far this morning. Fabricated 2 brackets for our top mounts, which are gonna go right over here. And we just picked up the contour of the top core support and then picked up the holes for our original radiator shroud, and then end up drilling some holes at the top and putting some rib nuts in, so you can have this top screwed in, and then have your side bolt installed this way. And I'll show you here around. I'm going to walk around, and here it is. Here's what this is going to look like, and then that way if you need to remove it, you'll just take these out, take this off, and this whole bracket comes off, and then you can lean your radiator out. Also making 2 brackets for the bottom because the OEM isolator is no longer going to be utilized. So Jake is actually whipping some brackets out right over there, and we're gonna end up putting a plate here and then making our own hole for the lower isolator, and we'll show you here that in a second. Yesterday we ended up cleaning a lot of this stuff out, all this little support structures pieces, top and bottom, and then a little bit off the side, just so we can sink the radiator further forward, and then move it off to right side of the car like we needed it. So as soon as Jake's done drilling some holes over there, we're going to show you what kind of brackets we made for the bottoms, and we're going to go ahead and tag that up onto the vehicle. Alright, here we are. We made some brackets here for the bottom isolators. So we're still using the rubber isolator here, and we just whipped up some brackets. They'll slide right into here, and we end up opening up a new hole so it goes all the way through. Same thing for this side. Here it is, and it'll slide into these slots where the little structure ridges are, and they'll sit like so, and then we'll mount this to this plastic piece, and same deal, it's opened up so your isolator will go all the way through the structure of the front support. And the reason we made these plates, so whenever the radiator is full of coolant, it has extra support and structure just to sit on, so it's not just a plastic. It'll actually support it nice and be nice and sturdy. So we're gonna slide this in now, and the top just gonna drop right in, and then after that, here's our mounts for this. And for the back of it, there's going to be a little gap in between the radiator and this mount, and we're going to make spacers that we're going to end up welding to the radiator, so it's no longer going to try to pull the bracket sideways or bent down on it. Even though it's so thick, it's not going to happen, but just for extra support. I'm going to go ahead and pop these into place now so you guys can see what it looks like. Alright, this is basically how it's going to be mounted, just with some new brackets and some new hardware for your tops. You're still going to be utilizing your OEM core support without have to making anything crazy or too different. This is not going to be a full race car. This is going to be just a cruising around town car. So I will just try to keep it as simple as possible. And the front of this came out nice and tight. Still a little space, so it doesn't rub too hard. Well, it doesn't rub at all, but very close to the core support. So happy with that. And now we're gonna go ahead and bolt that on the car, and should be looking pretty good. And then we'll start with our intercooler mount. Alright guys, so we end up mounting our intercooler. Like we told you earlier, we end up cutting the bash bar and fitting this thing right in here. Previously the customer already had some holes that he drilled before, and his plan was to put this on the back, but we're going with some big fans right out in this area, so we can't have this sitting too far back. So we plugged the holes and picked up our own holes, and end up cutting this out, mounting everything together. So far it's looking pretty good. It's nice and flush with the front of the bash bar. Now it's basically a big bracket. It's no longer a bash bar. We still got to do some final touches and clean up the edges. It's still a little rough. This is basically a rough draft of what it's going to look like. There's still brackets we got to make for the bottom, which is no big deal. That's going to be next. And this is all should be nice and solid, and the radiator came out looking very good. It's nice and flush. So the next step is going to be fabbing up our piping. Basically we're going to have a 90 coming out. We're going to have to clean some of this up for a 3-inch pipe to go right into this area, and then we'll work that side. Try to stay away from the wheel as far as possible so there's no rubbing going on like I had it on my car, and few other odds and ends, but so far it's looking very good. This is going to be the wrap for today, so please don't miss out on our giveaway. Click that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.